So when we're looking at it, blacks have taken a heavy hit, and some blacks are surviving basically on their own resources. They got a business employing one person, but that one person, it's feeding his family or her family or both of their families, or contributing to it. Or some people, they've got a job and they've got a business, you know? So I'm not putting down these other businesses. I'm simply saying that this is a good way to go when it's coming to rebuilding our communities. And communalism represents an application of communalism to modern day circumstances. So consumer cooperatives are businesses where blacks produce those goods and services administered to the consumer, the black consumer. So consumer cooperatives allow blacks who invest in them to share in the profits. and we know a number of them now. And you also have institutions where you can do banking through cooperatives, and that becomes a basis for financing your businesses. And it's a good way to go for capital development. Now, in 2019, $835 billion of black household money went into consumer spending. $835 billion. Black consumer spending by black households, though, even though that's large, is restricted by the fact that we are oppressed under racism, semi-colonialism, and under a capitalist system where we don't have very much capital due to a lot of reasons. And so as a result, we're restricted in the use of our money because there are three areas that really sap our money: housing, healthcare, and higher education, because families are involved in helping their kids go to college, which they shouldn't have to pay for. As I pointed out, when I went to college, I paid $100 a year because you had a master plan for higher education in California, and New York had the same thing. But as a part of neoliberalism, the banking industry has gotten into this, private enterprise has, and therefore making students go into debt for life to get an education, a higher education. So while there is a capital base for business in the black community, in this case, consumer cooperatives, we have to be honest, there are restraints. And one of them is we're putting a lot of money, the average black person is putting a lot of money into housing, healthcare, and higher education. The cost of black household expenses in these three areas rose. In 1984, it was 38%. To 2019, it was 45%. 45%. And it's got to be worse now with COVID. It is more important to note that black spending follows culture, and that if you're building black businesses in the black community, it's extremely important to understand what the needs are of that community and to really appreciate how culture drives that. Two areas where blacks put a lot of money, more than whites. One is extended families. We put a lot of money into supporting kinsmen and women, aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents, sisters, brothers. We put a lot more money into that because family is the second central principle in our culture: spirit and family, God and mama. You hear me? So understand that. So if your business can aid in that, That's going to be very helpful. And then the other area is student debt. Education is of high importance for us. And so, we're going to put money into offsetting those costs for our children. And then the third area, which has got nothing to do with our culture, is consumer loans. You're talking about, we had, the show on trauma and stress. Debt is a cause of stress. And of course, we're pressed, so you can say, yeah, I don't have the money. But man, the first rule is if you're going to buy something, pay cash for it, unless it's a car or a house. And if you got the money, pay cash for a car and get it used. Get a good deal. You know what I mean? Get a warranty to cover, the incidentals of repair and stuff. Because as soon as you buy a new car, it's lost a good part of its value as soon as it goes off the lot. I don't have any credit cards. None. My credit rating is 850. You hear me? 850. I think that's about 20 points below what's absolutely perfect. I ain't gonna have no stress over that. I mean, if I'm gonna buy something, I'm gonna pay cash for it. I mean, otherwise I don't need it, So that's something, if we just cut down on consumer debt, we not only cut down on stress, we would enable ourselves to put our money in other places. And the key thing is have reserves. This is the key thing, have reserves. And I know it's hard because given the conditions we're paying usually more for our housing and getting less too often. There's ways to get around that, but that's usually the case. And so, we got less to save, but save, you hear me? I don't care about what I have in my pocket. I care about having some reserves. Some people talk about rainy day funds. Rainy day fund, my butt. You know what I mean? You need reserves so you can do whatever you want to do. That's called the freedom fund. Have your own freedom fund. You know what I mean? Put together some reserves, which means forestalling immediate gratification. You can have some, but you don't need too much. You know what I mean?